Hey, everybody.
Hi. This is gonna be so much fun. We have our second episode of Broadway Bloopers. It was so much fun the first time. We were like, we got to do this again. And we have brand new friends here to tell some hysterical stories. Cannot wait to get going. So we should. I'm going to introduce my co-host, who's going to introduce our other co-host for today. I'm introducing David F.M. Vaughn. Whoop, whoop. He's directed several shows at 3D, from Shrek to Mamma Mia, 42nd Street, Legally Blonde. Am I leaving anything out? I think that's it.
One more. Shrek the second.
Oh, yay! And we have our other one. She's here. And then also was our Farquaad the first time we did Shrek. So anyway, we have David, and now David, take it away and introduce our other two co-hosts.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Broadway Bloopers 2.0. So my co-hosts today are two of my worst friends. So I felt like I would just pull from the bottom. And no, I'm just kidding. These are actually two of my dearest friends. The first I will introduce is Ellyn Marsh. You probably know her. She's Broadway's funny lady. She is my arch nemesis, and I love her very much. She has been in Priscilla, Kinky Boots, Enron, Pretty Woman, Rose Tattoo, is going to be in Sarah Silverman's new show. Did I miss any of your Broadway credits? Doesn't matter. You're muted. Wow. How many times have you done Zoom? You're muted. So anyway.
Wait, and the funny thing is, doesn't she have a parody about Zoom meeting?
She's a content creator about these kind of jokes, and it's always the shoemaker's children that go barefoot.
That's right.
Ellyn Marsh, she has nothing to say about me except for good things. My second co-host is another person I love very, very much. Haven Burton.
Remember my name.
Haven and I doing Shrek the Musical. She's been in Legally Blonde on Broadway, Rent on Broadway, Violet. What else? What am I missing?
Kinky Boots.
Kinky Boots. She's done it all, ladies and gentlemen. She met her husband doing Shrek the Musical, and they have 3 gorgeous children. Is Denny joining us?
He's really kind of like keeping the kids distracted.
Drowning in children.
Upstairs in the basement. While I do this, I can kind of like tag him out, and he can come in and do this. He's got a bunch of bloopers.
She's married to Broadway's Denny Pascal, who we all Shrek the Musical with. He's done Beauty and the Beast. He's been in Chicago for 100,000 years. So these are my co-hosts. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Yes.
This is super informal, super kind of like, whenever actors get together, inevitably what comes up is, oh, this one thing happened and the show got ruined, or I was embarrassed, or whatever. And that could go on for literally hours. So TJ and I was like, well, what if we did a thing like that? So this is our second time doing it. And I have a bunch of stories. I know you guys have some stories. We have some special guests that are going to be popping in. But I don't know. Let's kick it off with Broadway's Ellyn Marsh.
Wait, we're your special guest.
Well, first of all, David and I met doing the European tour of West Side Story.
Yes.
And
was it Wolfgang Botch, by the way? Was it Wolfgang's tour? I forget.
It was not a Wolfgang tour, but I will say, if you were on the call last time, I told the story about the stage with the
sneakers. Yeah,
I told the Coke story. That was that tour where during the taunting, Anita was, yes. So
it was that I could basically just have a Zoom show just about that show, but I'm going to skip it. I'm going to tell you a couple Kinky Boots stories. Because I was in that show for the longest, and okay, well, actually, I'll start with Priscilla. So Priscilla, did anyone see Priscilla, Queen of the Desert? Anyone? You did? Yay! Okay, so Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, it was a spectacle. We had a bus, the bus moved, we had a travelator, we flew in and out, and anytime you have that much automation, things, I mean, it's like par for the course that things go wrong. So I was playing one of the divas. So these divas are like, not narrators, but we're this like ethereal beings that like, you know, come in and out and we sing and we had these huge cage wigs. It was amazing. It was so great. So in the beginning, the three divas come down and we sing It's Raining Men, right? Because Priscilla, Queen of the Desert was about 3 drag queens. Phenomenal opening number. So the 3 divas come, humidity's rising, barometer's getting low. So I was in the middle and I come in, humidity's rising, barometer's getting low, and there's no divas next to me. Oh, no. It's just me. And I'm like, in my head, I was like, okay, are there mics on? Like, you were like, yes. Then I made the decision by myself that I was not only going to sing my part, but I was also going to sing the backups because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was going like this. I go, humidity's rising, barometer's getting low for the first time in history. It's gonna start raining. It's raining men. Hallelujah. It's raining men. Amen. And then I kept echoing myself. And I was like, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out. You guys, I literally turned into a crazy person. And then it gets worse because they're above me. So I couldn't hear. And I also was freaking out. So I was like, in my head, I'm like, I am saving the show right now. Like, there's plot points that people are going to miss. I am saving it. It gets worse. So it goes, okay, I would go, hi. And the 2 girls would go, hi. We your weather girls. And then Stacey would say, have we got news for you? I did it all by myself.
Yeah.
But they were still singing from above. So it went, ha, ha, ha. We your weather girls. And have we got news? It was. And then I flew and I was like, saved the show. And then I ascend and all the girls were like, what are you doing? It was so embarrassing. So my stage manager, David Hyslop, Haven, showed me the scratch tape. It was maybe the worst thing that's ever been seen on a Broadway stage. But the crazy part was I was like, I'm playing 3 parts right now and I'm nailing it. And it was so embarrassing. So then they made a contingency plan called the Ellyn plan. That if anyone
have a contingency plan called the Ellyn plan.
Yeah, it was called the Ellyn plan. So like if automation doesn't work, there was like a backup plan, and they're like, because if you pull an Ellyn, then this happens. So
Forever in the show Bible. Forever in the show Bible. Yes.
Forever in the show Bible. So if you ever sing your part and your backup parts, that was called doing an Ellyn.
Doing the Ellyn. Amazing. You guys, that was such a great way to get this show started with a great opening number story. I'm going to throw it to 2 friends of mine who I love so very much. 2 guests who are popping on. And then to quote David, have to bloop off. They're going to bloop on and bloop off. So David Engel and Larry Rabin.
Hey,
a million Broadway shows between the 2 of them, from the original companies of La Cage aux Folles and Seussical and the producers, et cetera, and so many. So gentlemen, I know you guys got to run. So tell us some funny things before you have to run.
Okay. Well, I made my Broadway debut in The Producers on Broadway, and I understudied Bats of Broderick. So I would be on often playing Leo Bloom. And I got to do it with Gary Beach at first, and Gary was so amazing. But Gary was so steady. Like, there was never a missed beat ever. Amazing to be on stage. And then the divine Leroy Reams came into the show, and no 2 shows were ever the same, because Leroy went up constantly in the middle of songs. He would make up words. He would speak gibberish. He would say things like frittata in the middle of something when he did frittata. But the scene in the townhouse.
Can I tell the one thing? And if you're looking for a war, here's World War II in the song. You know, as he's doing Hitler, he goes, He said in one of them, if you're looking for a Jew, here's World War II.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. So you never knew what was going to come out of his mouth.
Never
Always
knew. So we were
delightful,
always
though.
just, yes. So I'm in the townhouse with him, and he comes up and he sniffs me and he says, oh, what is that enchanting smell? And I say, me? Well, I'm not wearing any cologne. And he said, oh God, if I could bottle you, I'd shove you under my armpits every day. That's the real line. He went, what is that enchanting smell? Me? I'm not wearing any cologne. If I could shove you under my armpits, I'd keep you there. And then just a swirl of regrets.
But
Everybody
you had to,
else
like,
on
stay.
I had to stay in character. Everybody else on stage, I watched them. They all just turned upstage like the Carol Burnett show because no one could keep it together, and he couldn't come up with anything else to say for about 25
It's
seconds.
kind of delightful because you never know what he's going to say. And it's like, what's going to come out tonight?
Yeah, so fun.
He is.
I love it.
He's
Oh my God, so
And then
good.
the show that we met on was Forever Plaid, and David has a Forever
Yeah, I do have a
Plaid
Forever
story.
Plaid story. First of all, I didn't see your last blooper show, so I don't know if this all came up, but I know that every actor has, and to put it delicately, breaking wind stories. Every actor. There's no one who doesn't, because I know the audience thinks that we're all just like sparkling, like fantastical characters on stage, but we are really human beings. And
Who had to eat in between the matinee and the evening
and
show.
bloops happen. I'm going to spare you all that, but I know that no actor doesn't have these stories either from them.
I
or
think Jimmy
somebody else.
Torcellini is coming on later telling one of these exact stories.
Okay.
Oh, good.
I think he calls it like the great fart of 87 or something like that. So
I'll make sure I stay tuned. We have one good one too, where it came from the audience, and that was that. It's hard to hold it together on stage. Okay, so mine has zero to do with that, but kind of just because I was going there because we have a zillion of them, especially in Forever Plaid, because it was a very close knit group of us
and dealing with the audience all the time.
And yeah, so but this is a Forever Plaid story and kind of another bodily function. Okay, so I have to set it up. In the show, we do Heart and Soul, and it brings someone up from the audience, and they play Heart and Soul with us. And then before they leave, we give them all these little parting gifts: plaid dental floss, and I finally say, and please, a certificate of life. No, a plaid certificate.
Yeah.
And then I say, and please sign our plaid book of life. And she's signing it. It's always a woman. And then I would say, and then take it back to your seat and pass it around so that everybody else can sign it, and we can put in a good word for you after we leave, meaning because, the plaids are dead and we can put in a good word for them. And then at the end of the show, and it would get passed around at the end of the show, the house manager, because it had a little note in it, please leave it with the front of the house, she would bring it back to us, and there were all the names and emails, and we could
And
put them
comments.
and comments. Oh my goodness. But
So
we
it's
put them on our mailing list and everything. So that's how it all goes. So when we came and brought the show from New York to Los Angeles, and we were in Beverly Hills, we ran that show there for at least 2 years. And like every day I was going to the beach. I just loved being back in California, and I was body surfing, and I would have the tannest plaid from heaven, there ever was. But I was just loving it, and I would get wiped out by the waves over and over, and I'd just run back in there and just do it. So I don't know if any of you have ever done like sinus rinses. I would do it, not like a neti pot, but like just a sinus rinse, and I would use, and like somehow a little bit of water would get kind of stay in there, and then a couple hours later it would just release, and it just a little. Well, from being in the ocean and being tousled and just like wiped out so many times, I guess I had a lot that was just up there in my sinuses, and decided to let go on stage. And so I was holding the plaid book of life, and I said, please sign our plaid book of life. And then just then, what seemed like a cup of water, it couldn't have been much like, but it just like when just poured out all over this book, and I couldn't stop it because I was holding it, and I was like,
It was a full puddle.
it was like and splatter, and I couldn't explain it away. I couldn't go, I have a cold, or, I couldn't say anything. I just like, and then I was like, great, and could you pass it around, and everyone else, you sign it too, so that after we leave, we can put a good word for you. And it went out to the audience, and then at the end of the show, the house manager brings it back Not a single person that spoke, not one. It's like, it was just kind of, all wet.
I thought that where you were going to go with that, I thought that because everyone also has like the story of like the paramedics being called. I thought that the lady was going to like have dropped dead or something like that. I was just waiting for the poor lady.
There are a lot of those stories though too. Gosh, we took a woman, we bowed her, and she completely did a somersault and flopped on the stage. But yeah, there's anytime you invite someone from the audience on the stage, you are playing with
always trouble.
Anyway, thank you for having us
Love
on.
you guys. Thanks so much for coming. Love you. Bye.
Sorry, we have to dash.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye. I'll stay tuned.
Yay.
Computer down. We're done. We're just folding the computer down. I feel like an entirely separate one of these of like, when was EMS called? Like, I have easily 5 stories about EMS being called. But before we get to that, Broadway's Haven Burton here. She is Broadway royalty, guys. I'm not
the
sure.
Original Gingy. What? We have our Gingy up in the house right here.
You named your daughter after me, so.
That's right.
So honored. I am like so honored.
And I was like, I only know one Haven, and she's really talented and really funny. I don't really know her, but I'm pretty sure she's cool. I'm down. Okay, let's do it.
Oh, that's sweet. See, I always type in my names as I'm like thinking about them to name the kids to make sure that I'm not naming them after a serial killer.
Yeah.
Make sure that
Also
there's no
smart.
serial killers. No murderers at large.
Also smart. Yep.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I hope one of your stories today is the one that I think you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be the one right now, but before you leave, I would love for that story to be told because it is one of my personal favorite stories. But yes.
It's not even that great. It's just like, this one moment of Haven being a ditz and going, oh,
so representative of like, if you are, and most of the people in the room that I know some of you all are actors. It's so representative of like, when you are in a long running show, what happens to your brain? Because with a month, 2 months, like you're always in it. When you're in like year 2, like your brain just changes. Anyway, I'm sorry to put you, Haven Burton.
Yeah, we never got to year 2 though with Shrek, so that's like a weird.
Honey, I have a list.
No, you're right. Like when you get comfortable, I did Rent for a couple of years and I did it on tour too. So once I did it on Broadway, it was like, oh, this is easy. And we do that for people that are in like long running shows or when you're doing a show for a long period of time. You have to find ways to keep it, exciting, keep the brain active and stuff like that. And there is always a moment where you hit what we like to call the white room, where you just go away mentally, like you're just done. And I remember this one time that I was Mrs. C in Rent on Broadway, and I was about to get up and do like the second act voicemail. Like, I don't remember what it was. Mark, it's the Wicked Witch of the West, your mother. Happy New Year from Scarsdale. Like that whole thing, right? And I'm sitting down there with the thing, and for some reason, I'm like, what's my line? What's my line? And so my friend Mayumi in front of me gets up and she does her voicemail as Alexi Darling. And then I stand up and I have this telephone in front of my face and I pull it down. And I'm gone. I'm done. And I was like, Mark, it's Mom. I hope you're having a wonderful New Year's. And I was off. I was done. I was like, don't know what my line is. I've done this line 5,000 times and I don't know what it is.
And it's so hard when you're in a show where people know the word. Most
Every
people
line.
know. And then it's like, and there's some little musical theater kid like, she messed up! I know the words! That's not them!
Oh yeah, and we had rent heads and they were always in the front and they were always like, oh my God. And then afterwards they wanted to make sure that you knew that they knew that you messed up.
Oh, always.
That was really fun too. I've actually had a lot of white room moments. I've had a lot of white room moments.
Check.
Luckily I didn't like really go completely up, but there were some times that I was like, what are my words? What are my words? What are my words? What are my words? Like during the only song that you sing in the show too, which is really fun because you're like, if I mess this up, it's my one chance. It's the one thing that I sing. If I mess it up, it's done. And everyone's gonna know I'm a failure. There's no redemption. Okay, so one of my biggest ones, I will send Denny up though because Denny works with a lot of celebrities over at
Chicago.
He'll dish it from Chicago stuff because he's got some really good bloopers from Beauty and the Beast too. Oh, where to start with Shrek? There's so many things that went wrong with Shrek. It's really hard to pick a favorite. But for my own blooper, I think is the one that David is talking about.
Come on, let's do it.
Okay, so as Gingy, I'm also the Sugar Plum Fairy. I have one line. Not because they didn't want to give me other lines, because every time they tried to write me a new line, I was like, no, it's so much better when Sugar Plum only says one thing. I have one line as Sugar Plum, and it is, hey, maybe you could talking to him, huh? Yeah. That's it. That's all I say is Sugar Plum. So we're in the swamp. We're waiting for Shrek, to turn around. And then we're trying to convince him to go and tell Farquaad to give us our land back. And so I'm sitting on stage and we've done the numbers and stuff and we're sitting there and I'm looking around at everybody and I just go off and I'm thinking, I wonder if I know all of the lyrics to Total Eclipse of the Heart. And I start going through the lyrics. And then I'm looking around and I'm like, turn around. Every now and then I get a, why is everybody looking at me? And Brian Darcy James is there with his eyebrows and he's like, are you gonna talk to me? And I was like, oh, why are you not talking to him? And Cody was like this close to like jumping in. She was just about to jump into my line and then I said it in the nick of time. Oh and they harassed me for months for that one.
But just the best part of that is just that like the vacant stare we all recognize, and to ask you what it was, like and I was thinking about like this really important. I was trying to remember if I knew. Do I know
the lyrics
to Total Eclipse of the Heart? People joke like, oh, you think about your laundry or yeah, sure, but like sometimes people on Broadway are thinking do they know the lyrics to that song that doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Probably not.
In life, yeah.
And I don't know the lyrics. That's the truth. I didn't know them. I didn't know them. It was all for nothing.
You discovered it in that moment. It was, it was important.
There was another thing that I had a blooper so much for Fiona. The after Rat Tap, the skirt, when the rats come back out and they put the skirt back around Fiona at the end of Rat Tap, it was all connected by magnets, and if one of the magnets was off or it didn't match up, then the skirt inevitably would fall off during the next number, which is I Think I Got You Beat. So yeah. I had my skirt fall off, and I don't even remember what city it was on tour, David, but it fell off right as I was doing like the fart.
Like you blew it off.
I took it off and I just aired it out on stage like I was airing out a fart. So that's also kind of a gassy story.
I would not have been able to keep it together if I had been on stage with you. Nope. That's amazing. Oh my God.
On stage game of all time, which I still use to this day, which is where you very, very softly lip the words that the person's saying to you are. You lip sync their lines just enough so they can see you. And Haven and I would do this together as Farquaad and Fiona in that same scene every night. And it was always funny.
Because we're really professional.
Because we're professional, and 100% of the time, both of us, our smiles were creeping up. But I want to just throw in a story really quick for about the White Room, or the White Wall, or the White Walkers. If anybody here has done Les Mis, you know that a show that's 3 hours long, that's serious the whole time, is ripe with stories. I did the show for 4 months, but one of my favorite stories of all time is we had our second Javert. It was our first replacement, and he was an an older gentleman who struggled with memory. And he had played the role before, but he just was struggling a little bit. And we were downstairs, and after the confrontation, they're singing at each other, and at the end, Javert goes, "I will be waiting 24601," the number that everybody in the whole world knows. We've heard this number 1,000 times, and I just hear over the monitor, "I will be waiting 162 number." Immediately realizes it and melts into a as if that'll somehow say 162. Same guy. We are at the barricades, which is basically 7 hours of Act 2. And there's a section where we kind of end, and then somebody goes, "He's back!" And Javert climbs over there. "Listen, my friends, I have a story to tell." Do you like my Javert voice? And we're sitting out there, and we all, have our guns, we're on the barricade. But he's back! And we're like, "The fuck is it?" Sorry, I'm cursing. Are the kids here? Probably. And I look over, and I look behind the barricade, and he's not there. And of course, it's just stage managers, going like this. I look into the wings. I'm like, "Oh, he's late." Nobody in the wings. The music, there's no repeats in the show. It's gone. We're 3 verses gone, and everyone is standing on stage with guns, not knowing what to do. And then you hear, because his mic is hot, then you hear, "Oh shit, I think I'm on." And you hear him run down 3 flights of stairs to get on stage. All of us are silent on stage, holding guns, looking like a-holes. And then, of course, he runs on stage. He's like, "Listen, my friend." We're like, no, we're done with that part.
Yeah. Moving along.
But yeah, I every time I think of Les Mis, I think of him going 162. Do we have another special guest?
We do. Yes, we do. So a very good friend of mine. I love him so very much. In the most recent revival of My Fair Lady at Lincoln Center for its entire Broadway run. And then also the original company of Bonnie and Clyde. Just another one who's done a million things. I love this man. Please welcome Joe Hart. Oh, wait. Oh,
thank you.
There you go. Yes. There you go.
Thanks. I've loved these stories. I wish my sound were on because I've been cackling. Just hilarious. It's just so much fun. Hi, Christy and Brittany. It's so good to see you guys. The rest of you, I don't really know that well. So as TJ said, I did the My Fair Lady thing and the Bonnie and Clyde thing, which was, you were talking about EMT in the audience. So just quickly, I remember there's a song in Bonnie and Clyde where it's "Dying Ain't So Bad." Yeah. And Laura Osnes was about to sing. She started to sing it. She had like the first 2 lines, "Dying ain't so bad." And she noticed someone in the first, second row starting to have some sort of medical emergency. So she stopped the show and said, "Is there a problem?" And, they brought down the curtain. And of course, EMT was called. And we waited about 10 minutes. And then finally they took the person out on a gurney. And of course the curtain goes up and she has to start the song again. And it's "Dying Ain't So Bad."
Oh, no.
The door. I mean, it's just, it was hilarious. But that's not my story. The story that I wanted to tell today was with, I did the original company of the most maligned Broadway show ever called The Best Little Whorehouse Goes Public. Right. And which was just a disaster. So I did the workshop of it, and then I did the Broadway run. We had a month run, and then a week. We closed within a week. I don't know if you remember some of the wonderful bylines, but it was "Whorehouse, Borehouse, Best Little Whorehouse Goes Nowhere." It was a disaster. So anyway, in this show, and there were a lot of really wonderful, talented people in it. Casey Nicola was in the chorus and or the ensemble, and Troy Britton, some great folks in it. And anyway, my story is this. I was like the worst dancer of the men's ensemble. I was like the barometer. If Joe can do it, then it's in. And if he can't do it, then we'll cut it and we'll do it. And that was Toon's, motto, so anyway, and there's one part in the show where Tommy put me at the point of the triangle, the chorus line triangle. And it's in a section, right? It's in the beginning of the telephone number, which was a telephone, the whole sort of phone sex thing was just starting. And this call was Call Me Madam. And so we all had these, portable phones in our hands, our props. And I was dead center in a bathrobe with my underwear underneath it. And we're just, we all line up in our position and the curtain's just about to come up. And I realized I've forgotten my telephone. So I run upstairs to the dressing room, which is the 5th floor of the Lunt-Fontanne. And like, I can hear, I'm getting closer. Am I going to make it? Like, I get the phone off my table and I go running down the stairs and I go running in the dark into my position. And when I get there, these pros that realized that I was missing rearranged the line.
Oh, shit.
And Tom Flagg is now in my position. So I come in the dark and I lambaste Tom. So Tom goes flying. The curtain starts to go up. And as I do that, my phone flies out of my hand and under the curtain down towards the orchestra pit. So now I am squirreling with my hands underneath the curtain to grab this phone, and the curtain comes up and like my ass is hanging out. I'm like, the whole, it was just a huge cluster. And it was so embarrassing and so humiliating, which is what my story revolves around. But I don't know how funny it is, but it's humiliating and
it's good times.
So it was it was a real blooper experience. But a lot of stories like that in this business. So.
But Joe, the humiliation is the best part, right? At the time we just want to die, but now they're the best stories to pull up. It's so funny. You mentioned Tommy Tune. This is a very short story. I did Dr. Dolittle with Tommy Tune.
Oh, right.
And we're on a tour, and this is the very end of the show made no sense. He gets on a moth and he flies away and it's snowing. I don't know why, but anyway. We were all dancing underneath the snow, and it would be just a snow bag. You know what a snow bag? It's like literally a bag tied to 2 battens, and it's got little slits in it, and it just goes like this back and forth, and it slowly releases the snow. Well, for some reason on tour, they wouldn't repack new snow every day. They would sweep up all the snow at the end of the show, load it into the bag, which is fine, I guess. Towards the end of the week, sequins, bolts, screws. So by the weekend, you felt like you were a nom. You would literally be dancing underneath the snowstorm, like, it was horrifying. The weekends were the worst. We would literally dance like we were monkeys, but we would dance like this because of that. But anyway, I have some off the record Tommy stories that I bet you and I could go.
Oh yeah. It reminds me of my I did the National of Annie Get Your Gun, and Mary Lou Henner was the star, and it was Annie, and at one point she would, I forget the name of the song, but she would point the gun up in the air and fire it, and a trick, bird would drop down. Okay, so one night she goes and she fires it, bird doesn't fall. So we go on to the next scene, and we're over on the other side of the stage, and all of a sudden the bird falls and lands dead center. And George McDaniel, George, he's playing Buffalo Bill, and he looks over at the bird and he goes, "Another suicide. When will the madness end?"
I love it. I love it.
I want to throw it next to Ellyn Marsh because she has to go, but she has another story she wants to pop in.
I have 2 quick physical stories about kinky boots. Haven, did you ever drop the apple? Did you? You did. You dropped the apple. Okay. So Haven. So Lauren in Kinky Boots, there's
Hey.
those are
Hey-o.
those are the boots. You're welcome. Those are free just for today, though. Okay. So the anxiety comes because Charlie comes in at the end of History of Wrong Guys and throws the apple, right? You got to keep your eye on the apple. You got to keep your eye on the ball. Great. I never dropped it when Charlie threw it to me. Never, not once. One day, I dropped the apple because I decided to get cute. Because Charlie threw me the apple, and then we go, we jump, and we like play these air guitars. Wait, was that after the apple? When did I drop it?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think I dropped it there. Anyway, I dropped the apple, and it rolled. And in my head, I'm like, no problem. I'm going to make it a bit. It's going to be a bit. It's going to be great. Nah, I need more room. So we're at the edge of the stage. Apple falls there. And I decide I'm going to slide to get the apple, like slide into home plate. But then I didn't really now this isn't going to work. So then I didn't really think past it. So I slide to get the apple because I'm cute, right? Didn't plan how I was going to get up. Because then you have a light cue to get back to the button, the song. So I slide and I'm all cool. No plan to get up. So then I get cuter and I go and I whip my body around to do like a fake breakdancing move, but then that just made me land this way. So then I had to go. And then I just ended. So then I had to go to Jen Perry, who played Trish. Now I had slid into home plate, twisted my old ass 182-year-old body around the other way, showed my butthole to an entire audience of Broadway patrons, and then I go to Jen Perry, and she's supposed to go, oh, where are you off to? And she goes, and she doesn't say anything, and then I just go, pose. And I just end the number. You're supposed to bite the apple. And I literally did nothing. So that was physical comedy number 1. Always plan your bits out when you think you're a smart aleck. Never worked out. So my last story, Kinky Boots, at the top of Kinky Boots, the flats open and we're in the factory, right? The factory comes to life. And I used to I had 12 pairs of shoes that came out. Take the shoes, put them on the rack. Take this, it's meant to look like a factory, right? One day, I get there, I turn and there's no shoe rack. I was like, okay, so, again, didn't plan ahead. So I take the shoe, another visual. So I take the shoes and I put them in my arms. I take the shoes and I put them in my arms. 3 pairs of shoes, I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to hold many more pairs of shoes. So then I have about maybe 10 shoes in my hand. So it's a conveyor belt, so they keep on coming. So I decide that I'm just gonna stop the shoes with my butt. Meanwhile, I look to my Broadway cohorts, my Broadway people I've been with for years. Nobody does shit. They're all just Jake Odemark is standing there with the soccer ball. Everyone's just laughing at me. Everyone is, with every laugh, they're basically like, screw you, screw you, screw you. I couldn't do anything. I mean, it's 11 pairs of shoes. It was 22 shoes. So I run off stage. I drop them stage left, run back to the conveyor belt to pick them up. And then I was like, again, could we have a contingency plan for when there's no shoe rack? And that was when I learned that everyone on Broadway is because nobody, they will always laugh at you. No, I'm telling you guys, Haven, how many people are on stage at the top? 9, 10 people on stage at the top?
It's gotta be, it's gotta at least be 9 or 10 or maybe even 11. Yeah.
I remember I locked eyes with Jade Odemark and he goes, it was just way funnier to watch me struggle. So.
I mean, yes.
Fun if he had helped you.
I know. And the funny thing is that you see it coming and you're like, oh, this is funny. No shoe rack. Until you have like
all the shoes
in your arm. Then you're like, oh, actually, I can't do the rest of this number. It was very funny. The show did go on, but I never really looked at any of my cast members the same ever again.
No.
So that's that.
Oh my gosh. Ellyn, you are amazing. It's been so awesome to have you today. I'm so glad you came by to.
Thank you.
share
And
your
thanks for letting me show you my boobs too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
We have our next friend. I'm so excited. This person is here. He directed me in Me and My Girl. He did the original company of Me and My Girl. He's done a million things, literally like everything, and one of the funniest people I know. So he's a great storyteller. The incredible Jamie Torcellini.
Hey, everybody.
Woo!
How you doing? So,
how are you?
You're good. I'm glad that I got in here in time. I'm sorry about running late, but
No, not at all.
running an Airbnb when you're not on stage. So listen, the Broadway bloopers thing, I think I have a story that I don't know that you've heard.
Oh,
But-
I'm
But
excited.
this is not necessarily on Broadway, but for 2 years I was on tour with Liza, where she toured with 2 dancers. And we went all over the world. So this one incident happened in Italy. And I had one line in the show. Otherwise, I just sang behind her and danced behind her. And the line was, it was a big number where she spins off and she runs into me. And I said, I have to go, oh, my name's Jamie. Would you like to dance? And she says, okay. And we dance around, right? And she dances with the 2 of us back and forth. So in Italy, they wanted me to say it in Italian. So we had an interpreter and they said, okay, so it's mi chiamo Jamie, chiede ballare. And I said, okay. And being Italian, I should speak Italian, but I only took Spanish. So I'm listening to my grandmother say it. And so I get on stage and I say, mi chiamo Giacomuz, chiede ballare, because my grandmother only called me Giacomuz. And she's way Sicilian, like never spoke English. She only spoke Italian. And the audience starts clapping to the beat. And they start pounding their feet on the floor. And my eyes get really big. And I'm 21, I think 21 at the time. And Liza just looks to the audience and looks at me. And then she walks all the way to stage left, because we were down stage right. She walks all the way back. The audience calms down and she says, Giacomuz, and they all start clapping again. And she walks back. And then at intermission, we both came off stage and she said, what was that? And the interpreter said, no, you said everything right. But when you said your name, you used a term of endearment that a grandmother would say to their grandchild in Sicily, Giacomuz, and they know that region and they know what that meant. And Liza goes, I don't care what it is, it's in. And
I love it.
so that was that one. I still have people call me Giacomuz because of it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Rachel York has such a great Liza story from Victor Victoria that it's brilliant. I don't know if we'll get to it today, but yeah, she is Liza's stories are the best.
The one where she exits too early and comes back in and says, as an ad lib, boy, that kitchen's a mess, isn't it?
That was one of her. Yeah. No, long story short, she ended up having she just, one day, all the lines left her head. Like, she just was like, did not know anything. And the guy playing Tony, I think, I forget the actor's name, I'm blanking now, but basically her everything in the show was like, she kept going, like she could tell that he was getting really upset, because he was like, oh my God, like I don't know how to get us out of this. And like, so finally she just had a conversation in front of the audience on stage with, are you mad at me? And he started like having this conversation, like, and then finally he yelled for Rachel's character name. He was like, just was like, I think it's a about time for, you know, Rachel to come on stage. It was so funny. Like she was just, the way that Rachel goes through the whole thing is hysterical. But yeah.
Wow.
Good old Liza Minnelli. You have a really funny one from Me and My Girl too that I remember you telling about some guy that ate a lot of natural foods and caused a bit of a I think it was in like Lambeth Walk or something. And
Oh, you mean? Oh no, that was a. I do believe. I think I know what you're talking about, and that's Guys and Dolls, and it's
Guys and
played
Dolls.
nicely.
Oh.
And during that first chase in that opening number, when they keep running through and everyone's running through, so they actually run from stage right to stage left all the way backstage so they can keep making a big circle, right? And he decided to what he called crop dust.
Oh no.
And
David's face just.
he was a large person, and he had something that didn't agree with him, and he let it go because he could do. And I'm not going to name names because if he was here, he would chime in and take it. He would take credit. And so he did, and then they all kept running through it. And as they hit center, it would hit them, and they go, "Oh!" That's what you're talking about. That was
exactly what I was talking about.
Me and My Girl. No, I do have one for getting lyrics with in Beauty and the Beast. And
oh yes, tell that one real quick before you have to go.
Okay, I'll do it real quick.
Great.
Okay, so I was playing LeFou, and it was at the Schubert Theater back when we used to have one in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And that show was there for 2.5 years, 2 years. So by the end of it, you know, you get, you know, things get by rote, and you always have to connect, you know, when you go in, and it's just hard sometimes. And I got a mental block about my song. For there's no man in town half as manly, perfect, a pure paragon. You can ask any Tom, Dick, or Stanley, right? That's how it goes. And I go, and I went, for there's no man in town half as burly, perfect, a pure paragon. You can ask any Tom, Dick, or Shirley. That was because I knew that's the wrong thing. And then nobody could keep a straight face because they don't help you out, just as Ellyn was talking about. No one helped me, and I was just fighting to keep it together with everyone cracking up. That one.
We all want the story. We're not willing to help you because we need a good story. Also, you guys have learned everyone on Broadway is terrible.
They're just terrible.
Terrible.
No, because 8 shows a week, they have to have some fun. So you can't shame them for it.
You can't help. You can't help. You can't shame.
You can't. Anyway.
I love you, Jamie, so much. Thank you so much for doing
this.
Thank you. Good to see you. Mwah.
You too.
Speaking of terrible people, Haven, did you have another? I love you so much.
Did somebody say terrible people? I am a terrible person. Terribly wonderful. Yeah, I had one more Shrek story. So when we were like when you create a new show, a lot of times you'll get things that like material that goes in that night, and then you tech it at the very end of the day during tech, you know, in previews, and then you put it into the preview that night. I don't remember what David thinks that this was in Seattle, but my friend Jeff was definitely there, and I had a feeling that it was like our first preview on Broadway.
Might have been, but you have to remember, those of you, like we did like months of 10 out of 12s in Seattle. Like my brain was so fried. But what she's saying is true, but not only, oh, hey, what's up? But not only would you get something and then tech it at the end of rehearsal and put it in that night. I remember very, very clearly walking into rehearsal, or walking into the show after we had rehearsal, we had dinner, walking back, being an announcement, there's new lyrics in your boxes. We had like little file boxes, new lyrics for the opening Mob Clump. Please, everybody, get them. We don't have time to rehearse them. Just put them in tonight. So keep in mind this Mob Clump, which doesn't exist in the show anymore, used to be that we had gone through like 6 versions of the lyrics. So that night, just learn these. Everyone was like, but I think second rehearsal. I think it was previews before we opened on Broadway.
Yeah. I think it was, and so that was a really big day for us too, because it was the day they almost murdered Denny.
Wow, about that.
It was like a really big day. So we had this, our first, before, you guys did the 3D, you guys did the new version of the dragon, not the floating seahorse head.
Correct.
Yeah. You guys did the beautiful puppet flying version of it with the Forever song.
Yes.
So before, when we had this floating seahorse head that was like pushed around on wheels with one eye that was broken for like half of the production. It was the weirdest.
And you were like one of the scales, right? You were like one of the.
Oh, we called them spicy Doritos. Okay, spicy Doritos.
But
that
like,
was one of those numbers where we I remember like Jen, Cody, and Danette and I would like line up at the end like pie, and then we were like to the audience because we were just so.
If you've seen the Netflix version, you'll see
what we're talking about. It looks like spicy Doritos on all of our backs, and we're in lobster costumes.
This is where like you see the what we call bones, or like the little skeletons, and we would at the very end of the number, there's a passerelle around the pit. We would end kind of like dead on the pit, but we had these big masks on, but we were like this close to the audience member, and I have never seen such pure apathy in eyes. Like that number would be like, "Pah!" And we're like, bah, pirouette, 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 bump, and people are like,
it was so awful. And it was like, it was one of those things that was like, it was a really great concept on paper. And then once we got it up, it just didn't it was just terrible. It was a little humiliating.
My 5-year-old, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the eyeball that she's saying, the old puppet was Johnny inside it, and it literally, all it did was the head just went back and forth. And then they added this eyeball thing, but the eyelid would get stuck. So like all the time, the dragon would just be like, and it looked like this drunk dragon. Where did my career go? And
we're in lobster costumes, and we're singing about turning him into a pie, and we're looking at this dragon head, and we're like, what is happening?
It was all on a turntable, and the dragon went up and down on these hydraulic lifts that we had. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, so previews, we were in tech the night before the night of our first preview, and we were finishing up, we were about to hit dinner, so we were gonna redo the first number, the opening number, but we were teching for light only the finale. So the dragon was in place, but was not supposed to go up on the elevator. The turntables were not in position, and it wasn't locked in. So whatever happened, the cue was called for the lights, and instead the elevator went up, but the dragon was only halfway on the elevator. And this is the tiered elevators. So it was the highest one. So it went up like, 15 feet in the ground, 15 feet off the ground. So it starts to go up, and that whole dragon just boom. And so Denny is in the head puppeteering the dragon, and then we've got our head carpenter and our production carp and a stage manager all in the dragon, and they all went down with it in this giant steel cage. Now luckily they were like, nobody was actually hurt, which was amazing. But you could see me, I'm gonna cuss a little bit, I had like my cone shaped hat on from the beginning, and like fairy makeup. And we see the whole dragon go down, and the sound was just like cracking steel, it's really, really loud. And I screamed, what the f-? You know what I mean? And then I just like ran, just veil and pointy hat, running off the thing to the back. And I see this like little limp foot, Peter Pan foot hanging out of the bottom of the dragon. And I totally lost my mind. Anyway, everybody was fine. And we did go into the previews that night. At which point they were like, oh, let's all meet in the lobby, and we're gonna redo the lyrics for the finale. We're adding in a Gingy rap section. Gingy's gonna rap for Freak Flag. And here's the lyrics. And I was like, oh my God. So we meet in the lobby, and it is like, let your freak flag fly, let your freak flag flow, set your freak down high when you're freak down low. You're a freaky guy, you're a deepy bop, 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 dop, 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 dop. With your freak flag fly, let your freak flag fly, right? And was all F's, and I was like, I'm gonna say the F word. Like, that's what's gonna happen tonight. And then Josh Prince is like, wait, so we're gonna just block it really fast before, it was like, everybody was set for, you know, the places, and we're just gonna say it. So no pressure, we're gonna be like, party, 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 and then everybody just turn and point to Haven, and freeze. And then I'm standing in the center of the stage, and I was like, let your freak flag fly, let your freak flag flow. 50 feet, 5 4, me fee 5 4. So dip beautify, move up on a pass, sip a dip, just gibberish. But I be purple. They. That was our first performance on a Broadway stage, and I remember Janine and David coming up to me afterwards, and they were like, "So we're cutting that," and I was like, "Thank you." It went so smoothly. I wasn't humiliated at all.
But now you get to tell it here for all.
Now I get to tell it here.
Do you remember, sorry, Haven, do you also remember that, so in the show, there's a big sun that sets and goes in and out all the time.
Yes.
On Broadway, it was like a hard piece. And then what they did was they literally cut like 3 feet of the deck in the back that went all the way down into the hydraulic pit where they had like the turntables and everything. So
that's what Denny was hanging over
like
in the dragon.
And the dragon had fallen over, and everyone was dangling over this pit or whatever. And I know what happened, because there was a couple different cues where the hydraulics go up. The wedding cue was tied to the lights or whatever, but the dragon wasn't in the wedding position. So the dragon was sitting on top half of a lift. So the lift went up. It was, but from my point of view, so we're all in the audience, we watch this happen. Haven screams, she runs up on stage. Keep in mind, we know nothing. Haven goes backstage. 3 seconds later, you hear a piercing scream. And all of us went, oh my God, Denny's dead. Because nobody screams that way unless like you see a little Peter Pan foot sticking out of a dragon. And if that—
I remember Dennis Stowe being like, it's okay. And I was like, nothing about this is okay.
And then you just had to wrap that evening. You were in the total headspace to do that.
Yeah, it was like, let your feet five foam, let your foot five foam, 50 five foam, boop.
I have to say, they need to involve in these types of processes children more often, because my kids right away, they'll be like, they miss the skeletons. They do miss the skeletons, but when they saw Forever as opposed to Donkey Pot Pie, they were like, oh yeah, this is way better.
First day of rehearsal in the tour, we were like, thank you.
Literally people started crying when we watched the dragon puppet arrive and they did the number and sang it. People were crying, because the ones that had done Broadway, because it had always been our Achilles heel. It was so every night we were so embarrassed about it. And when that dragon opened its wings and started flying, and it was so magical, and everyone was like, finally we get it. Well, we need
a pretty girl. She's a pretty girl, mama.
Pretty girl.
I am going to introduce another special guest real quick. She's going to throw it back to the first national tour of Dreamgirls with Candi Milo.
Girl, unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay, sorry. Do you need, all right, so I was going round and round because I just want you to know that I had booked Dreamgirls and I had just turned 21. And I had booked it while I was doing another show that was teching. It was when they brought the Rockettes to LA, and it was the Christmas Spectacular, and I was a New Yorker. And they fired me from the show because I missed tech to stay for Michael Bennett, who was the creator of it and the director of it, of Dreamgirls, did all day auditioning. You were there and then you were kept until you got the job. And so it was winnowing down. And so I was kept and then I was fired. So my story is I arrive in New York. I had just turned 21 in January. I got to New York at the end of January. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any credit cards. I didn't have enough money to take a cab from JFK to the Century Paramount Hotel. So I took a bus with 2 gigantic rolling suitcases. Not that there was a tight target on the center of my chest. So my other sweetheart in the show was Dali Lively, who won the Tony for Smokey Joe's. And we became fast friends because our tracks we were together for the whole show. So for those of you that don't know, this is an all-Black musical other than a few white people. And it was killing in New York already. So we finished the first week and we have our paychecks in hand and everybody's kind of bundling up and leaving. And Dali and I are staying after school to kiss some butt. And everybody's really bundling up and they're talking about a blizzard happening. And we're like, yeah, okay. I'm from Northern California where sometimes it hails. Okay. Dali was from Austin, Texas, I believe, Austin or Dallas, one like heat. And we were like, she was like, we get hurricanes, y'all, and we are fine. So Dali is also built, her body was like, you have never seen anything like this. So we are leaving rehearsal and the entire cast is gone. And we're finally leaving 890 Broadway. So we are way down on Broadway and we don't have any money, but we do have our first paycheck. We slip them in our coats and Dali has on a shorty coat with fur sleeves. And I, of course, have a California weight down parka on, burgundy, because it was so attractive. And we decide we're gonna walk to our hotels. I'm on 46th and Broadway, and she's at the Marriott, but I'm at the Century Paramount, across the street from Dreamgirls. And we're down at 890 Broadway, roughly 50 blocks that we're gonna walk. So we've got dance pants on, tennis shoes. She has a crop top on and a shorty jacket. And I, of course, am in my very strange burgundy California weight down coat. And we start walking and it becomes like mimes in the wind where we're like leaning forward, trying to walk. We get 10 blocks and I said, maybe we should try to get a cab. And Dali looks at me. She's got short ice white blonde hair and she looked like Satan. And she turned to me and she said, do you see any cabs? And I was like, I don't see any cabs. Maybe we should go down in the subway. And she said, we could go down in the subway if you want to get murdered. And I was like, okay. So we're continuing to Marcel Marceau, Walk Against the Wind. I have ice starting to form on my coat. She looks like a deranged hooker. We are offered drugs. We are offered sex. We are offered drugs and sex. We are offered everything. And we're 25 blocks into this walk. I can't feel my face. I can't feel my hands. I don't have gloves on. It is storming and we stop. I can no longer see Dali, but I can feel her breath. That's how close she is, but I can't see her. And we hear whoop, 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 whoop. And I look at Dali and we're flagging them down. And I'm like, you just look like a snowflake. Nobody can see you in your white fur jacket. And I'm in my burgundy thing. And they pull over and made us put our hands on top of the car. And they were like, what are you doing out here? And we said, oh, we're leaving rehearsal. Dali looks like completely like a hooker. And they were like, oh, you're just leaving rehearsal. They don't look at me because I look like I'm her maid in my burgundy coat. But we've got our hands on top and they say, oh, what Broadway show are you rehearsing? And we say, Dreamgirls. And one of the officers was black, and he was like, I saw that show. You are not in Dreamgirls. So, of course, I'm crying. I'm so young and so naive. I'm crying, and everything's freezing on my face as I'm crying, and my hands are on top of the car. And finally, I think it was Delee that remembers checking our coats for our paycheck. And I was like, oh my God, checking my coat pocket for the paycheck, for our paycheck. And so we had to unzip our coats and open them, hands there, and they reach in and they look, and it doesn't say Dreamgirls anywhere on our paycheck. And they're like, this could be from anything. And I, of course, being who I am, I'm angry now. I said, we're lying about this, but we're from the same company, and the checks are from the same company. And why are you not being gentlemen? And why don't you just give us a ride home? And one of the guys was like, well, where do you live? And I was like, 46th and Broadway. And they both started laughing so hard, and they said, you came from 890 Broadway and you decided to walk in a blizzard. You're from Los Angeles, you're from Texas. Get in the car, because we don't think you'll live until we get you to your hotel. So we were in the back of the car, which smelled like vomit, because this is before like Giuliani redid the city. What we were walking through was, I kept saying to Delee, I'm pretty sure, don't you have a credit card that we could use and like go, let's just, no, we decided to walk. And so I got to my hotel, and my coat, the zipper was completely iced all the way down, and my room was absolutely freezing. So Delee gets to her hotel, she's got heat, she's got everything. She also had a boyfriend who was paying for it. I'm like in the cheapest hotel that they could put me in. And I get myself in bed. I'm completely traumatized. And halfway through the night, you hear this alarm, like this buzzing alarm. We all have to go downstairs because the super had murdered a family. And I was just like, welcome to New York, welcome. And I showed up at rehearsal. This must have been Saturday, because we had Sundays off. So it must have been Saturday, and Saturday night the super was sleeping with this woman, and she told him it was over, and then he killed the whole family. And and that was it. And I walked back in on Monday, and I'm about to button this up. This is the honest to God truth. And I grab Michael Bennett and I say, I have to go home. I have to go home. I don't have a credit card. I don't have any money. We walked home. My coat is still frozen, everything. So like snow is piled up. I got myself in a cab, got my check cash, got down there and told him that I had to go home. And he just kind of did this thing on my face like that, and then shoved me in the chest and said, you're late and we're doing your number next. And that's it. Walking home in a blizzard where cops thought that we were hookers. Well, not me, because look at me. But we were stopped, and then I got in the back of a puke thing, and then our super killed an entire family, and I had no heat. So anyway,
Broadway blooper to Broadway horror story. That's
Broadway. Like, I can't even.
Realities of living in New York at that time. That's insane, Candi Milo.
It was insane. And when we finally got home, I don't think that all day on my day off I looked at my check, because I was so traumatized that I thought, I cannot do this. This is week 1 of rehearsal. We have 12 weeks left. And I don't think I could do it. And then I looked at the amount of my paycheck, and I could have bought a car and driven so it ended up being like a very lucrative, fantastic, those were the days. It ain't that anymore. I was given per diem and travel as if I was a New York. When I was in rehearsal, I was a Californian with per diem. Then
Right.
when we went on the road, they put me through the Schubert Company as a New Yorker so that I could get the same travel per diem when I hit LA. But I swear to God, I was done. I was like, this is not for me. I am done. Little did I know it had only begun.
Only just
Oh,
begun. Oh my God, I love you, Candi Milo. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
You're
You're welcome.
Love you.
And all my friends.
If I
Hi,
may-
Nick.
I love it.
Hi,
If I may
David.
jump,
Hi, Candy,
Yes.
if you know me better, I think of you as a hooker. So I hope.
I mean, if I
Thank
could
you.
jump in, your story is great. It reminds me so much of how cold it gets in New York. And one story I remember is the audition for Sarava, which was Donna Floor and her, right, the Red
Yes.
Menace or whatever it was, the Menace. And this audition was, it was 20 below zero. It was the Broadway theater, and next door to the theater, it had all been demolished. So there was nothing there.
Oh.
And every chorus boy had shown up for this. There were 250 people in line waiting for the audition in the ice freezing fucking cold.
Oh my God.
And we were freezing out there. So they decided it was cruel to leave us out there. So they brought everybody into the theater, and they were redoing the house. So we all went on to the stage with a ghost light and a piano. And out in the darkness of the theater was the creatives. And the first person went, and you had 250 of the people you had been auditioning against
Right.
forever, all around the piano, and you had to go out in the middle of it and do your 16. So the first guy goes and he hits it, and there's this pause, and it's thank you, next. And the next guy steps up and he sings, he does 16, and we're all just cringing. And there's silence out in the house. So the guy turns and he starts to walk off stage, and he stops and he turns out to the house and he goes, excuse me, am I gonna get a call back? And there's like dead silence in the house. And then he follows up with, you know, I don't really care one way or the other, but I think everybody would like to know. And everybody roared and the whole place came
Oh
down.
my God.
And then everybody relaxed and did their thing. But that was reminded me of that cold, about that cold in New York. how
Oh
bad it
my
was.
God. And Joe, I'm going to tell you, when I got to rehearsal and the white cast, we were all extras in the show, and we did a lot off stage. We were brought in first. And when Edwina Lewis, who you will remember her in the movie Stand and Deliver, she is the teacher that starts singing. And sometimes, and she was our mother. And I remember when I walked in, she said, what's the story that everybody's talking about you and Dali? And I was like, man, it was terrible. And she said, you and I are going to have a conversation on how to be a grown-up. And I was like, absolutely. She said, because I don't have time to worry about you like this and do no prayers. I don't gotta have time. And from that moment on, Joe, when I left rehearsal, I had to go in the Century Paramount. There was the greatest coffee shop, the greatest diner. And I had to call her every day and let her know that I got home, and I was no longer allowed to walk with Dali because she didn't want to worry about it. I don't want to worry about you. Yeah, I love Dali. I love Edwina Lewis. God rest her soul.
Was
and,
Gary Chapman in that company?
Yes, and Gary Chapman.
Gary
was in that
Chapman, I
company.
loved. Oh, he was
Yeah,
great.
it was a great.
Yeah.
We have lost a lot of people in my tour, but we haven't lost a lot of people from the original OBC. Those guys are still there, but most of our dancers we lost to AIDS.
I remember the day after it opened, walking through the through Times Square past the theater. There was like a cosmic change in a shift in the theater at that time, in the theater community, from the opening of Dreamgirls and Jennifer
Yeah.
Holliday. There was just this thing that happened after that. So congratulations being part of that.
Yeah,
company.
thank you. And I went to an all black, non-union call, and I drove 2 friends there. And then somebody dropped their number, and I picked it up and walked in and walked out with a job. I think Michael Bennett just loved my nerve. Like, he couldn't believe I was just like, oh, let me sing for ya. Oh, let me do a little number. So I'm going to leave you guys now. Joe, thank you for that. Bye, everybody.
I love you.
I miss everybody.
I miss you too. Love you. Guys, we have a couple more great stories, and then we're going to close with some greatness from David F.M. Vaughn. I'm going to save mine for the next round because we're going to have gone to our time. But Herschel Sparber, I'm going to bring you up. This man, original company of Guys and Dolls among City of Angels. This man's a legend. Just did, he did 42nd Street, of course, directed by Sir David F.M. Vaughn. He's amazing. Herschel, what is up? Tell us a good story.
Well, first of all, if you think I'm going to follow Candi, you're out of your mind. I'm not going to follow that story. Anyway, all right. So my first show was City of Angels, which my first Broadway show, which I got at a cattle call, and at which I sang Rubber Ducky. And
as in from.
Oh yeah, I sang it. I went into the lounge, and they had posted Big Six, Ernest Borgnine type who sings like a crow. I thought if ever there was going to be a Broadway show, that was the one I was going to get. And so I went in, and Vinnie Lift, God rest his soul, was there. And I sang Rubber Ducky. He fell off the chair. I got a call back, and I got the show. So we're rehearsing at 8:90. And about 3-4 days in, Jimmy Naughton, who was the ringleader of everything, says, let's all go down to the Broadway bar and get a drink. Sure. So Jimmy, Greg Edelman, Renee, Kay McClellan, a bunch of us went down there, and we're sitting in the Broadway bar, which is very adjacent to 890, and we're having a cocktail. And somebody made a remark that somebody in the bar took an exception to. And one thing led to another, and it got very, very chippy. And it looked like a fight was going to break out. Now, I looked around, and, Naughton in a fight, okay. But Renee Aubergenois, one of our great actors, not good for a Broadway brawl. And Greg Edelman, great tenor, but not so much of a fighter. So I turned to Naughton and I said, listen, I'm going to do my move. And when I do, you get everybody out of here. And my move, of course, is standing up. So I start to stand up and up and up and up and slowly, and I turn to them. And some of these guys have lost their enthusiasm.
Now, for those who don't maybe know how tall you are, how tall are you?
6'9". And at the time,
man.
at the time, 270 pounds, and this was 30 years ago. So we inch everybody out the door, and a bunch of them start to come. And I said, guys, you don't want to do that. The first one out, it's you and me. And they stopped. And so the next day we're at rehearsals, and the bartender, who was also the owner, storms into the rehearsals and goes, everybody in City of Angels, you're banned from the Broadway bar for life, especially him.
You're that badass, Herschel. That's amazing. I love it.
You're talking about City of Angels, we were talking about mechanical breakdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in City of Angels, there's a scene where, the two thugs, Ray Zyfo and myself, were beating up Jim Naughton in his little apartment. And the radio station lights up, and Scott Wara and the Angel City Four sing, "You Better Look Out for Yourself." And the unit moves across, and it covers the fight, and then a shadow fight appears above, which we had pre-filmed. Well, we're standing there and we're getting ready for the stuff, and the music comes up, and all of a sudden you hear this twang. The cable had broken.
Oh no.
And the unit was not going to move. And so, you know, there was that first 8 or 9 bars of just music. And I thought, oh God, what are we going to do? And I look at Ray and I say, let's take him out into the hall and beat him up. And we ran out and out the door, and they sang and didn't have to come across. The shadow fight came out and it worked out. Steven Zweigbaum, who was the stage manager at the time, kissed me on the lips when I got off.
Jumping up to do so, yeah.
One last little thing, you know, when Jamie was talking about Guys and Dolls, about
Nicely,
what's
nicely.
the huh?
Nicely.
No. Nicely. In Guys and Dolls, Burke Moses, who was the guest on Broadway in Jamie's show, was our first replacement Sky. And we're standing there and we're getting ready to do Luck Be a Lady. And the gangsters, and we're this and a lady never leaves her escort. She wouldn't do something like that. So a lady wouldn't, you know, all 13 gangsters turn around and they look at him, and he goes on and he does exactly, you know, he just mumbled and got, you know, for about 12 bars until we got, you know, back to Luck Be a Lady. God.
There's nothing like losing lyrics during a show in front of you. I've done it, and it is just the most out-of-body experience. You're like, where am I? What's going on? It's the most terrifying. Oh, God. I love you, Herschel, so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Love you, love you, love you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. David, it was so good to see your face again, honestly. You know,
I love you. So happy to see you.
Yeah.
And this has been just an absolute pleasure, and thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, we have a friend of mine who I directed in first in Hairspray, right? It was Hairspray first, Daniel, I think. I forget now. It's all running together. But this incredible artist currently was on the, I just accidentally muted you. Unmute yourself, sorry. I got to see him actually go on as the Duke of Wesselton.
You were there.
That's right. I was there and Frozen. And he was one of those people that I knew was going to have this incredible career, and he has indeed. So I hear you have a really great Wicked story for us.
Oh, yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I did Wicked for about 1 year and 3 months, and this does not relate to me. I was off stage for this, but it is a great story about Madame Morrible and the wizard in Wicked. And it's the scene where the grimoire comes out, the book with the spells, and you start learning about the magic. And so I think the scene is the wizard and the 2 witches are on stage, and the wizard says, "And now here comes the grimoire. The magic book, the grimoire." Just pause, silent, dead silent during Wicked the musical. That doesn't happen. And we're all like backstage like, what's happening? And then you hear Madame Morrible, "Oh, coming, oh, I'm on my way, oh my God." All this crazy noise. She is nowhere near her entrance to the stage. She is running backstage. She does not have her dress on. Her dresser is pulling her dress up on her shoulders. She is grabbing the book, saying, "I'm coming, Your Osness. Oh, I'll be right there, Your Osness." She gets the book. She has it. The dress is not on all the way. And she goes on stage. And the wizard says, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" And she says, "Yes, I just, I got lost." They continue on with the scene like it's no big deal, only Madame Morrible is freaking out the whole time. I think Elphaba zipped up her dress on stage. And
I was waiting. I was hoping to say someone zipped up the dress or that it didn't fall down.
That was at the Pantages. Did anybody see that?
No, I mean, I didn't get to see that particular performance. I did see it at the Pantages, but oh my God. I love it. I love it. Yeah, there is some great, for anyone who loves good Broadway bloopers, on the Putting It Together DVD, there's some extras with Carol Burnett, speaking of things not being zipped, and her skirt just falls to the floor, and they put it on the blooper reel, and there's some great ones. And then just listening to Elaine Stritch at Liberty, that one-woman show, which is amazing. Tons of incredible bloopers and fun stories there. But before we go, David Vaughn, take us home with some great stories before we go.
I have a list, and we're going to obviously do this again, and I'm not going to tell any more stories except for this last one, and it's in honor of my dearly departed friend, but it's my favorite story of all time, and it's very quick. I told it last time, but I think you want to hear it again. He was in the Broadway production of Cats back in the day. Rick Pisano, some of you may have known him. And he, late 20s, doing the opening number where the cats are crawling through the audience and they have their little masks in front of them, and they're going up to the people in the aisles and doing their little cat things. And Rick said he went up to this guy who's sitting in the aisle in a suit. Then he went up to him and he's like, meow, 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 or, you know, whatever they do in cat. And the guy turned and looked at Rick and went, "You're a grown man." Kind of went, "Oh."
And then you have to do the whole show that way.
I have to do 3 hours of dancing in a leotard now. Oh, he's my favorite story because I love Rick and I'm sad he's gone, but also because it's so representative of sometimes how seriously we take ourselves, and then somebody just holds a quick mirror up to you and be like, "You're a grown man in a cat suit." So, buddy.
There is no better way to end this episode than with that story. David, Vaughn, I love you. Also, Daniel, Joe, Candi, all the people that came before, thank you, thank you, thank you. A special shout out to Ellyn and to Haven as our co-hosts. They had to depart earlier, but thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. We need to laugh in these times. We need to gather and share fun stories and remember, you know, the kind of why we do what we do, and this is part of it. Live theater is like nothing else, and when the stuff goes wrong, that is where magic can happen. So, and often does. So thank you guys so much. Wear your masks, stay safe, wash your hands. We want to get back to work, so please wear your masks. All right, see you later. Bye, everyone.